What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Coffee with Cory. I'm your host, Cory Smith, here with Brian Geisinger, basketball analyst for Pack Power, for 24/7 Sports, for Basketball Under Review, for his own Substack as well, all over the place. Brian, I appreciate you jumping on for a special. We're going to do this on Saturday morning, so we're shooting a little bit early, but I'm going to put this out Saturday morning before the game. I usually only do Monday through Friday for these, but the last Coffee with Cory, the morning of, worked out pretty well. I was using this exact mug, so we're going to try to keep some continuity here for these morning games. But first of all, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. Busy week, lots of basketball going on, and also just trying to prepare here in the Carolinas for the ice apocalypse that's on the horizon here. Which I gotta say, like, it is. I don't know, the reality of that's starting to set in a little bit. But so looking forward to talking hoops and a distraction from, preparing to possibly not have power for some time this weekend.
Frustrating as hell when you go from, there might be 8 to 15 inches of snow to now, okay, there's going to be about an inch of ice. So.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe there was a chance I was going to be sledding in Dix Park in downtown Raleigh on Sunday, and instead it's like, I need to find ice melt for the driveway. Just a very different kind of vibe. So not ideal.
Yeah. Speaking of different vibes, NC State goes from playing, a Clemson team that was top 20 in the country, I believe top 25 in the net going into that game. They find a way to win that one on the road. Now they'll face a Pitt team that, it's just kind of that example of like, all right, don't have a letdown moment. This is a Pitt team that, comes in with only 8 wins on the season, 1-5 in ACC play after losing a game against Boston College. But I wanted to go back to the Clemson game, look at a lot of the things that NC State did right on the defensive end, also the offensive end of the floor. But wanted to jump right into that, Brian. Similar to what we did last week, we're just going to throw up some clips, let you talk about this one. The first one's actually an example of what NC State did wrong in transition defense. So we'll start with a positive here.
yeah, getting off on the right note here. But yeah, this is going to be from the Georgia Tech game, which obviously is one that State's trying to flush, but and they certainly managed to do that with the result at Clemson. But this is going to be a transition defense possession for State, and something that I feel like since Maui we've talked about as sort of like a cause for concern with State. You're going to see Darrion Williams or Van Allen Lubin goes up for a layup. Actually, could you rewind it to the top here? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Darrion Williams, I believe, initially going up for the layup, then Van Allen Lubin on the putback opportunity. Oh yeah, it's Lubin going up for a layup. Forgive me.
Yes,
and then Arsenault, I believe, crashes from the corner too. Am I looking at this correctly? Yeah, keep running it. Keep running it.
Yeah. I think it was actually Paul McNeil.
Paul McNeil. Yeah. All right. Well, okay. Forgive me. I'm thinking of another transition bust they must have had. But regardless, so you can see State has sent 2 guys to the offensive glass here in this clip, Van Allen Lubin and Paul McNeil. And you've got Jaden Mustaf running the other direction. So, Tech already has like a slight numbers advantage. And you can see State doesn't have the floor balanced super well. Like Matt Abel is sort of like level with the ball. Allen Breed, who didn't play at all in the Clemson game, he's off to the left wing, and you've got one player back on the defensive half of the floor. That's Darrion Williams.
Yeah.
And the first rule, like one-on-one in transition defense, is you need someone to get in front of the ball. You got to force at least one pass. You can't just have the rebounder go rim to rim, in a grab and go situation and finish. And no one gets in front of the ball here. Like Allen Breed, Darrion Williams, those are the 2 guys that sort of have the chance to do it. And it just doesn't happen. And you can see, again, this is just too easy. Like straight rim to rim, breakdown. No one gets in front of the ball. Tech gets an easy layup. In this game, Georgia Tech shot 64% on 2-point scoring chances that required 10 or fewer seconds. You can see this one takes about 6-7 seconds to take for Mustaf to grab the ball and go end to end. And State just had trouble in transition defense, like basically throughout this game. And there were issues matching up. There were issues closing out on shooters. There were issues stopping the ball. Like it was just sort of like a potpourri of issues in transition defense. And I thought it was one of the many things that sort of like really cost State that game. And if you go back and even if you just rewatch the first like 10, 12 minutes of it, like Georgia Tech's running almost no like set organized offense. They're just grabbing a defensive rebound or a turnover or even a made shot, taking it out of the net, and then they're just flying the other way. And they're just trying to beat State's defense down the floor before it can set. And that's been an issue with State this season. 10.1% of the defense's total conceded outcomes, so field goal attempts, turnovers forced, in fouls allowed, have come in transition situations. That's the third most of any possession type against NC State's defense this year. And opponents have scored 0.9 points per chance in transition against State, which is actually it's not an amazing number, but it's definitely enough to hurt. And in quad one games, which obviously Tech wasn't, those types of opponents have really hurt State in transition too. So let's go to the Clemson game, because to me, Clemson is not like a super pacey offense, but this is a team that runs a very good secondary break. And you're not going to see the secondary break necessarily on this possession, but you can kind of like, because Johnson actually shoots it before they can really get things set up. Clemson is a slower team. They run like very detailed, intricate half-court sets, but they have a good secondary break where they like to get into their high-low offense, right? And so you'll see one of the 4 of the 5, one of them will run the rim, and the other one will trail the play from behind. The guard will throw the ball to the trailing big dude, and then the big dude that's sealed in the paint will look to go high-low. But this time, keep it paused right here, because you can see sort of similarly, like State's missed a shot. They've had a couple guys that have gone to the glass to crash. They didn't get it. Johnson, the guard for Clemson, gets the rebound, and he's going to start pushing the other direction. And let's just roll it from there.
I was going to say the one slight difference here, obviously, the fact that instead of just taking the ball out and going down, he actually passes it up here.
Yeah. Godfrey it's a Godfrey passes ahead, obviously, to a faster player, better ball handler. But this time State gets numbers back, and you can see like I think they do a pretty good job talking through this, like Paul McNeil and Van Allen Lubin. And you're going to get Lubin in front of the ball, stopping it. So cutting off that direct line drive. So look at that. Already this is a better possession of transition defense. And Paul's the low man, weak defender. You can see him communicating either with, I guess it's not Lubin, it's Sanye. And Paul's either communicating with Matt Abel out on that wing and saying, I got low. So he's going to have the player in the corner, or he's telling Musa that he's got help on the backside. So good work by those two guys. And Johnson gets in and he settles in for, a contested early off dribble, long 2-point shot at a similar time, right? 25 seconds left on the shot clock as he's getting into his gather here. But that's a vastly different shot, right? I mean, we know a Jaden Mustafa layup at the rim, he's going to make that, uncontested, 80% of the time, whatever. Johnson taking a 2 from the elbow, that's a shot that he makes maybe 40% of the time, right? I mean, it's a huge, in terms of the margin, it's a big, big difference. And again, this is just good work by State, getting their numbers back, better floor balance, Sanye getting ahead of the ball, doing a nice job actually contesting the shot too. And then Paul, I think, just sort of like hitting the right notes as the low man help defender on the like bottom weak side there too. So
one thing I was going to add too is Matt Abel. I mean, just a smart possession here from him as well. You watch him kind of as he's coming down to collapse. I don't know if you realize it or not, but you have 2 players down there that he could pass out to, and instead he kind of stays in between, like, all right, just waiting to see if there's going to be a pass, and then collapses there.
Yep. And Abel, obviously Matt Abel's the guy that can create steals, create deflections. That's sort of like his strength, as a defender. But I thought overall, like, State did a really good job in this game in transition defense. I thought they did a much better job getting back. And I thought it showed up. Like I really, really did. And I thought ultimately, looking at some of the numbers, Clemson recorded just 7 transition opportunities in this game and scored 5 total points. So 0.71 points per possession. And on 26 possessions for Clemson following a defensive rebound after a missed field goal attempt by State, Clemson scored just 0.58 points per possession, which is a really, really, really good number for State's defense. So to me, that I thought they did a much better job. Obviously, they didn't turn the ball over much in that game, just 7 turnovers. But after missed shots, they did a good job getting numbers back. By my own charting, I had Clemson scoring only once on its secondary break in terms of like a direct high-low basket, which again, that's to me is like the backbone of their offense. I thought State did a good job for the most part nullifying that. And next up, we can look at State's half-court defense in some of the ways that they also work to defend high-low action in the half-court. Because to me, this was going to be something that was going to be a big battleground area for State coming into this game. I know I talked about it with a few different people leading in to the matchup, but when you have a team like State that switches so much 1 through 4, 1 through 5, and if they're not switching, they usually hard hedge those ball screens with Lubin or Sanye, which puts your defense into rotation and it can expose you for high-low action, especially against a switch, right? Because if Clemson runs a ball screen and they get Trey Holloman switched onto Carter Welling, then Carter Welling can go into the post. And instead of Clemson just like dumping the ball into them, having them just like back down and try to get to their drop step or a hook finish, they like to have the opposing or the other front court player lift, and then they get into high-low out of it. So let's start this play from the top.
Yep.
And you're going to see it's Buckner who played well, navigating, sort of like initiating the offense here. And then you're going to get, I believe it's an off-ball screen on the left side of the floor from Carter Welling, and then pause it right there. Or hold on, keep running it. Keep running it, actually. You're going to get an off-ball screen. State doesn't switch it. State doesn't switch it initially, but there's going to be a rescreen on the ball, and then now you're going to get a switch. Ben Allen Lubin is going to switch out to Hunter, and Quadir Copeland is going to take Carter Welling in the post. And you can see Clemson is automatically, Nick Davidson is lifting up from that right block automatically, right? That's just an auto read for Clemson's offense because he's going to come to that high post area atop the key. Welling is going to seal. You can see how they're setting it up. Welling's going to seal deep in the paint. Hunter's going to throw the ball to Davidson, and he's going to look high-low. Pause it right there. Back it up, and then pause it to where Davidson has the ball at the top of the key. Yeah, right there. This is a great place to stop it because if Darrion Williams, if NC State isn't hitting the right notes here defensively, this is an automatic lob over the top for a high-low, right? Mm-hmm. But they've got everyone on terms of the team defense hitting the right spots. Quadir Copeland is fronting the post, which is a very common tactic against this sort of like high-low size mismatch. You don't want to just be behind the defender or the offensive player and allow like a straight line pass into the post. But if he's going to be on the top side of the offensive player, it in theory would open up a lob over the top, right? Because you've got no one behind Welling sealing in the post. But State makes that difficult by putting pressure on the ball. Look where Darrion Williams is. I mean, he's right in the grill of Davidson. And look at Paul McNeil. I thought Paul did a good job of this a couple of times in this game. He's playing way off of Whalen in the corner there. Whalen's a pretty good player, can shoot a little bit too. So like it's tough. Paul's got to kind of like be on a tightrope here, be in 2 spots at one time. You've got to be sort of on the backside of the play to potentially look to contest a lob pass over the top. But also, if Davidson tries to skip to Whalen in the corner, you've got to be ready to close back out and not allow just an open catch and shoot 3. And so I just think those 3 guys are just in lockstep with one another. Copeland's physically fronting the post, Darrion Williams applying that super important ball pressure, and then Paul, that low man help defender, just again, sort of like being in two spots at the same time, being there for help, backside in the post, and also being ready to sprint back out to the corner. But ultimately, Davidson's pass is just way off the mark here, in part because of the pressure from Williams, and it just goes harmlessly, split, goes skipping out of bounds for a turnover, and State gets the ball here. And it was interesting too, like as after the game, and after I cut up the Clemson State film, I went back because I have the McNeil State Clemson game all clipped up from the 2025 NCAA tournament. I've written about that game. We've talked about that game. McNeil came out in this 2-3 matchup zone, and it really threw Clemson's offense through a loop, especially in the first half. But one of the things that Clemson, when they were able to like get into their offense and get McNeil State to match up, they would look for these high-low actions, and McNeil was guarding it the same way. Like I found clips of Quadir Copeland fronting the post. You've got the defensive center applying ball pressure on the perimeter, and then the low man help defender like Paul in that weak side corner. So very similar approach that Will Wade and Brandon Chambers brought from how they defended pieces of Clemson's offense last year with what they did this past week against the Tigers. But it's really good stuff. Again, Clemson, I'm not like this will sound like a nerd basketball thing. I've been saying this for probably 4 or 5 years now. Like, I don't think there's on a year in, year out basis, outside of like maybe Purdue and UConn, like I don't know if there's a better offense at like consistently getting high-low action. They always have big dudes that can pass. Think about Ben Middlebrooks. Like he did this stuff for them. PJ Hall, Hunter Tyson, Ian Shefflin, Victor Locken. And they've got good guys this year. Godfrey Welling. These guys are like Big Davidson, big time players that can all pass. And all of those guys, all 4 of Clemson's all 4 of their like main front court guys are above 55% shooting on twos, and 3 of them have assist rates above 11% too. So they can finish inside, they can really pass, and the high-low game is a big piece of their offense. And I thought State did a good job not just getting bludgeoned by that. It really like was a secondary thing, and Clemson scored out of it, I think, just one time, at least out of the secondary game. And in the half court, I'd have to double check my notes, but they didn't score. They didn't get much traction out of it in the half court either.
Yeah, I was going to say, just obviously always just a very disciplined team, and NC State able to get them. I mean, as you saw from the one example in transition, but also that one, the fact that it kind of forced them into making uncomfortable situations or making uncomfortable passes and not being able to get out of those situations too.
And so in the next clip, we've got one more defense of Clemson's high-low action here too. This is late in the game. Here we go. Overtime, one possession game, less than 2 minutes to play in OT. And you're going to see Paul McNeil is going to be switched onto Godfrey, who was really good in this game. And you can see Clemson's trying to seal with Godfrey and just get the ball into him in the paint. You can see Van Allen Lubin also switched out here. So let's watch this from the top. So you're going to get a little like dribble handoff exchange. This is Clemson's like secondary little break. Godfrey gets the switch with McNeil, and then automatically the opposite big is going to lift to the high post. Same thing, right? Like if they get the switch with the guard, Welling's going to lift to the top of the key, and then Godfrey's going to seal, try to create that deep post position with a seal, and have open up the high-low lob over the top with McNeil defending. And Paul just does an awesome job fighting a guy that's got probably 50 pounds on him. You can see Paul just like scrapping in the post. This is part of his development. I mean, he's really improved, and that's not perfect. Obviously, he had some struggles in the Georgia Tech game defensively, but I loved his fight here. And then you can see Matt Abel's got that backside help too. Good work from him coming off that weak side corner. He shows in the paint behind McNeil on Godfrey, and then the ball gets swung to the top. And then it looks like for a second, like Welling might be able to squeeze the ball in there, on a high-low to Godfrey, but it's tough because Lubin gets his hands up. So good active hands by Van Allen Lubin, and that window's gone because Paul's back in front of the ball immediately. So really good work by Paul, good work by Van Allen Lubin, good work by Matt Abel on the backside. You get another switch between Williams and Lubin. And you can see, like, look, Paul won the battle against RJ Godfrey in the post. Like, look at that's incredible work by McNeil. And then Clemson's going to continue to cycle through the offense, about 12 seconds left on the clock. And I mean, they're out of op. Like this is them just like throwing up the white flag. Like we got nothing else. Boom. And Jeslyn Porter's a good 3-point shooter, but he didn't even try to take Van Allen Lubin off the bounce there. I mean, it's late in the game. Guys are tired. But this is great work to potentially turn down, you've got a mismatch for the offense in the post. And Godfrey, again, he was terrific. He's shooting 68% on twos this season. So you turn, potentially like an open layup for him if they can get that high-low game into a late clock contested off dribble three by Porter. And then, again, look at game time situation too. I mean, this is State. After they maybe had a chance to win it in regulation, they don't. Clemson scores first in overtime. I don't know. State could have thrown the towel in a few different places in this game, and they dug deep. And I think this defensive possession, especially Lubin and McNeil, really, really shows up. And you got to give a credit to Lubin for, again, on this possession, just like applying pressure on the ball here. I thought State's Sagne, Williams, Lubin did a good job of doing that to sort of like nullify some of these like automatic high-low looks for Clemson's offense.
Yeah, one other quick thing I wanted to point out here too, and you pointed out in the last one on the high-low, the fact that Darrion Williams closing out. I mean, watch him here too. Like as Matt Abel kind of comes down back into the paint to be able to kind of defend that, just in case someone slashes to the bucket, like leaves his man wide open over there. So the fact that Darrion Williams closed out, the fact that he's it makes it much more difficult for the guy he's guarding to be able to see around him. And that's a difficult pass, but it is a makeable pass and something that, if they dish it out there, then all of a sudden you've got somebody wide open. So
it's an interesting play too, because I think if you go back to that place where you had it froze a second ago, like I think there's a chance that like if this is skipped to, I think it's Hunter who's having a good guard, having a really nice season. I think there's a good chance you'll get an X out from State. Like I bet Quadir Copeland would come off of Johnson on the wing, and then Abel would like switch behind the play, and then he would take Johnson, and then Copeland would go to Hunter in the corner. Hunter weirdly kind of like leaves his spot. Like he sort of tries to like buzz into the paint, and maybe he's trying to, almost get like a second high-low entry point where like if he can catch the ball at the elbow, then maybe he can quick touch it into Godfrey, like from that angle. But it's just a weird time for him to like leave that spot in the corner and actually like sort of like compromise the spacing a little bit for Clemson's offense.
Perfect. All right. Well, now we'll move over to the offensive side of the basketball.
Let's do it.
For NC State, which was actually really good. What was it? 1.212 points per possession in this game.
Yeah.
Compared to, Clemson, obviously not a great offense overall, but they only have 1.086 in this one. So that was a pretty sizable advantage for NC State when you get your opportunities on possessions too.
No, I thought you and I were talking about this, before recording. And, I think there's a real case you can make that this was State's best two-way performance of it. And scoring the way they did against the top 20 offense on the road was noticeable. So let's pause it right here. And one of the things I've been advocating for, I think since the Seton Hall game, was that I wanted more inverted pick and roll with Darrion Williams. I wanted more pistol action, and I wanted more post-ups with him. And I think even though the Georgia Tech game was obviously a disappointment for State, I thought 3 or 4 of their best offensive possessions in that game were playing off of Darrion in the post as a passer. And I think the last time you and I did one of these sort of like film breakdowns on the pod, Cory, we looked at Boston College and the FSU games, and that was another feature of the offense in those, was like them finding different ways to play out of Darrion in the post. And to me, the reason why I like Darrion in the mid-post or in these inverted ball screen actions is because, one, he can score one-on-one, but more often teams are going to bring help. And he's just automatic two to the ball in these situations, and he's usually a pretty good passer who makes good decisions. So as Abel sets that screen and then sort of like slips out to the middle of the floor, Clemson doesn't switch this, right? Instead, Porter shows and then he recovers back to Abel. And now it's Godfrey defending, or pardon me, it's Hunter defending Williams on the wing. This is after Porter has just missed that shot that we just showed on the previous play. So the Clemson defense maybe like matched up, a little differently here. And then Darren's going to take the ball to the paint and make a pass here. But let's back it up here and sort of like break down how exactly he's able to do that. So Clemson shows and recovers, but they've still got a smaller guard on Darrion Williams. And he's immediately going to get into one of these Barkley-style drives, right, where from the perimeter he's backing down. That's what a Barkley drive is. It's a back down from the arc into the paint. And Williams he was great at Texas Tech at doing these things, and he just in smaller samples, he's shown the ability to be successful with it this season too. So he spent, Hunter sort of gambles and tries to go for the steal. Williams baits him, and then he spins middle. That forces Welling to come up, and now State's got a de facto 2-on-1, right, with Carter Welling, and then Van Allen Lubin in the dunker spot, and Williams makes a great decision, quick pass into Lubin, and he's able to finish at the bucket with a dunk. So that's perfect complementary basketball, right? Because the possession before, and we just showed how State's defense worked together to nullify that high-low action and force a late contested three. You don't have to take the ball out of the net. Clemson can't set its defense. You get Hunter matched on Darrion Williams. You get pistol action on that right flank with Matt Abel setting the inverted screen. You get Williams on the back down, and then you get him in playmaker mode in the mid post. And to me, that's when State's offense can like really be potent. So great stuff there by State. It wasn't the only time they went to Williams in these sort of like pistol concepts. And the pistol action is just that early screen, basically from Abel on an early offense on the right side. So let's go to the next clip from earlier in the game and check out another way that State is able to like play off of Williams as a passer in a different type of pistol action, but same thing basically. So there's the play, start to finish. So on this play, you're going to see Williams is going to set up on that sort of like he's going to pop out to the left wing. Copeland's going to pass it to him, and Williams is going to fake a handoff back to Copeland. And in this case, that's the pistol action there.
Yeah,
it's not identical, but you're going to get a screen, a fake handoff, or an exchange of some kind between two perimeter players, and that's just the pistol concept. So in the previous play, it was Abel setting the ball screen. This time, it's Copeland on the hit-ahead pass and then the fake handoff back. And as that's happening, you're going to see Paul McNeil lift up from the weak side, and he's going to smash Carter Welling with a back screen or a rip screen, same concept, for Van Allen Lubin. And you get Darrion Williams just passing right over the top of RJ Godfrey for the lob finish for Lubin. But let's back it up to this. Let's rewind and we're gonna pause it at the spot where Paul McNeil screens for Lubin. So right there, boom.
Yep.
So we've talked this season in a few different contexts about how dangerous of a screener Paul is, because he's such a good shooter. Teams are so worried about him roaming around and getting good looks coming off screens, that his movement has gravity. It causes the defense to shift around. And when he sets screens, it can really like geek out an opposing defense because, are you supposed to switch the action? Are you supposed to show help and then recover?
Can't let him get free. Yeah.
You don't want him to get free, right? I mean, this is how the Golden State Warriors have built an offense around Steph Curry doing stuff like this for a long time. But it's a simple principle of taking your best shooter and using them as a screener to help get other guys open. And you're going to see both Clemson defenders sort of like freeze for a little bit in terms of like what to do with Paul. And it's just a wide open lob. Paul does a good job setting such a good screen. And then it's Lubin. I mean, no one's close to him as he's getting ready to catch this ball too. So good action playing off of Williams, in the like high post off that pistol action. And then Paul sets a great screen. And you can see that I believe it's Hunter from Clemson, he sort of like lunges for a second at Lubin, like not sure if he needs to get back to help on the lob. He and Welling, clearly don't communicate this perfectly, and that's enough. He doesn't commit to getting back because he's worried about Paul popping up to the top of the key, maybe for a catch and shoot or coming into a handoff with Darrion Williams. But
you see him throw up the hands right afterwards. Yeah,
yeah, he was annoyed. I mean, I'm sure he was saying fight through or switch, whatever it was. That's a defensive breakdown, but that's just good spacing, good scheme execution. And to me, like the core tenets of State's offense are like Quadir Copeland pick and roll with Van Allen Lubin, and then like Paul McNeil's off-ball gravity, and then Darrion Williams like front court playmaking. Those to me are like the things. And so I like moments where they find ways to like sync them up, and this is just a really good way to, you have Copeland and Williams involved in the action together. And then you've got Lubin, who's your best rim finisher, cutting in for a lob, and Paul being the guy that helps spring him with the back pick.
Yeah, the one other thing I wanted to point out here too is obviously it's a set play. Where you're supposed to be going with it. But I mean, the first of all, the decision making and how quick he was with it, but also just the pass itself by Darrion Williams here. Like, I mean, there's the fake handoff right there, and before Lubin is even in his spot, it's all right. That's where we're going.
There's just got to be, there's some trust there too. And obviously, Darrion's a very good passer too. He's very skilled. And I mean, he should have a lot of, Van has been really good this season. Van Allen's been really good, finishing around the rim. Obviously, less so against Georgia Tech. He had a tough game. He missed a few bunnies. He wasn't the only one in that game who missed a couple of good looks at the rim. But for the most part, he's been damn good. So, let's go to the next play is another Paul McNeil as a screener play. We'll just run it start to finish, and then we'll go, sort of like break it down. Okay, so this is what I've been calling this season 3 across rip for State, and it starts with that sort of like 3 across look where you've got 3 players lined up across the baseline: Van Allen Lubin, Paul McNeil, Matt Abel, and you've got Copeland up top initiating the set, and then you've got Darrion Williams, spaced, could be a screener. But instead of running there being some sort of like Darrion Williams, Quadir Copeland pick and roll, the target is to get Matt Abel the ball running across the baseline and cutting into that right strong side corner, and then Paul McNeil cutting off that corner going to the middle of the court. So let's maybe roll it a little bit further. And then again, you're going to see McNeil's going to set another back screen. We just saw in the previous play, right, how he freed up Van Allen Lubin. This is a few minutes later in terms of the game, and he catches Godfrey by surprise. Like, Godfrey's not, you're probably expecting Paul to space to the corner, or maybe he'll run up off of a down screen from Darrion Williams. But because of the timing and the pace and the rhythm of this possession, he catches Godfrey by surprise, smashes him with that back screen. And then Abel does a nice job sort of passing around Porter. And then again, Lubin's open, but he's not going to be open for an eternity here. Like, you got to deliver it quickly. And so I think it's just everything's synced up really nicely here. Good design, good execution. And again, you see the power of Paul as a screener. Like, he really does help get guys open. And you get another look at the basket for Van Allen Lubin. I think he was 8 of 10 shooting at the rim in this game, according to CBB analytics. And some of those were tough finishes. Some of these were, him just cutting in, right into open space for quick finishes around the hoop too. So they ran this play twice in this game. A little bit later in the game, they had Trey Holloman set the back screen, and he actually drew a foul because the Clemson defender tried to blow it up and ran into him and got whistled for a call. But this is just good action, good corner rip action off that 3 across set. And it's all set up again. You've got everything synced up where you've got, Copeland and Williams interacting in early offense atop the key, sort of similar to that pistol look a second ago. You've got Paul McNeil setting a screen, and then you've got Van Allen Lubin basket cuts, and he's shooting in the high 80s this season on basket cuts this year too. So been very, very effective there.
And an absolute bullet by Matt Abel.
Yeah, great pass. Great pass. I mean, everyone plays a role on that possession, right? Even Darrion Williams, right? He's occupying the defense in the middle of the floor. But yeah, really strong work by just great 5-man execution there.
Yeah, also super helpful that you can have so many players that can play out of that. It's not just like, okay, we got to have one guy here. We got to have this specific person making that pass. Matt Abel can make that pass too.
Yep, absolutely. And so this was one of my favorite plays of the entire game. And it's another Paul McNeil, screener possession. But this one is designed to get the ball back to Paul. And that's what you want. You want Paul, running into space, So this looks a lot like one of State's what I call Ram pick and roll sets, where Darrion Williams is going to set a down screen for Paul McNeil, and then Paul is going to sprint up and he's going to set a guard screen for Quadir Copeland. And this is like State's gone to these types of actions a decent amount this season. But what they haven't done is the little wrinkle that they had added for the game against Clemson. But ultimately, when you have Darrion set that screen for Paul, it puts Paul's defender a step behind the play, right?
Mm-hmm. Playing catch up.
And as Paul is now going to go, he's going to use that little bit of advantage, and he's going to try to build on it by going in and setting a ball screen for Quadir Copeland. In all game against State, Clemson wanted to put size on Quadir Copeland. That's why they've got Waylon on him, who's 6'8", 6'9". And they don't want to put Ace Buckner on Quadir Copeland. So again, he shows and recovers. And then he tries to get back out to, he shows on Copeland. That puts him even further behind Paul McNeil, right? Because Darrion Williams screened him a little bit already on that first initial screen.
Yeah.
Then you've got Buckner trying to show and recover. And the whole time, Paul's plan is to go from the low post to that corner. And in the meantime, he's going to set that little like guard-to-guard ghost screen on Quadir Copeland. And then Lupin does an excellent job too, setting that the flare screen to get Paul open even further. And I mean, you can see the design. Copeland's just throwing him right into space. There's no defender out there in part two because Carter Welling, the Clemson center, is defending off the body against Van Allen Lupin. So there's no one. The corner's empty. Lupin's lifted. Welling's sitting in the paint. So it's all on Buckner to get around that screen. That's really, really tough for him to get around because, like I'm saying for the third time here, he has been basically, while chasing Paul around, has had to stop 2 times to get around the Darrion Williams screen, to show on Quadir Copeland, and then boom on that third time. I mean, he gets thrown through the washer on that one, and then it's a wide open 3 for Paul. So really good stuff from State. And again, a good use, sort of like syncing up Quadir in the pick and roll, how Clemson was guarding him in the pick and roll, not wanting to switch that action, put a smaller guy on Quadir. I mean, they probably should just switch that, honestly, like if you're going to get that guard look. And then State just has a really, really good play call set up for it. But to me, you get to see the power of Paul as an off-ball mover, off-ball shooter, and off-ball screener on that, and all the different stuff you can do as far as scheme goes with Paul.
All right, so the last offensive play here.
This is a
pretty critical situation here.
Very critical situation. So this is a play that State also ran in overtime against Kansas, which I tweeted that out the other day. But you're once again going to see Paul as a screener on this possession, sort of like the threat he brings to the table. So we'll watch it all the way through one more time, and then we'll sort of like go through piece by piece. Darrion's able to get downhill and draw a foul on Welling. But at the top of this possession, you're going to see Paul's taking the ball out. State's in this kind of like diamond look. Let's pause it here. You're going to see Matt Abel, who starts on the left side of the floor. He cuts to the right side. Darrion Williams starts on the right side. He cuts left. That's that sort of like scissor cut is what they like to call that in basketball. But a lot of this is just like window dressing, because what you want to do now is keep an eye on Copeland and Williams. They're going to run in the direction of one another. And it looks like maybe they're going to set a double screen for Copeland, like Lubin and Darrion are going to set a double, staggered down screen for Copeland. But instead, Copeland and Williams spin around, right? They literally, it's like a little like spin cycle play where, they sort of like come out on the opposite ends that you think they might. So this play is designed to get Darrion the ball He pops out after that little like spin cycle play, what I refer to as twirl or gaggle action. He spins around Copeland, comes off the down screen from Lubin, and then pause it right there. Because you've got Paul, as this like roving screener for NC State, and Clemson's not going to want to switch and put Hunter onto Darrion Williams. They want to keep that size on the ball. And so Paul's going to screen. And you can also see Hunter sort of like fronting Paul McNeil too. Like he's not in really good position here. But basically, this is going to mean that Carter Welling's got to get from the other side of Paul's screen to Darrion. That means he's going to have to cover a ton of ground. Paul slips to the middle of the court, and look, there's no one there.
Yeah.
You've got Matt Abel and stashed in that corner, so you got a good shooter there. Porter's pretty heavily in the gap, but you can see he doesn't want to fully commit and just leave Abel, who's a pretty good shooter, open on a kick out. You've got Hunter, who's basically face guarding Paul McNeil, and then no one really else from Clemson. Godfrey or Johnson is Johnson's on Copeland. No one comes over to help, so it's all on Welling to get back to Williams. Williams takes advantage. He slams on the brakes. He decelerates, shot fake. Welling bites on it, which of course he would. It's a defensive center trying to like cover a ball screen. He's not used to that type of defense, right? Like he's used to being dropped below the level of the screen, not trying to chase a guy off of the screen. And again, because of how Clemson doesn't want to switch this action and how they're also going to guard Paul McNeil, it means there's no help defender for Welling either. So again, you get that scissor cut, the twirl action with Copeland and Williams, McNeil, this little like pitch and chase action into again, another inverted ball screen, guard setting a screen for Darrion. And then he's able to turn the corner easily. Again, hits the brakes. And then, Welling's, it looks, it's like me chasing a breaking ball in Little League, just like not nowhere, just way out in front, of the attempt. And obviously it's a foul, and Darrion's able to go to the line and help get this game into overtime for State. So once again, to me, you're seeing these like core tenets of State's offense like synced up. Darrion in the inverted pick and roll, Paul as a screen setter, Matt as this sort of like other spacer who can connect plays with his passing or open up driving lanes with his shooting, Venn around the hoop too. Because Godfrey knows that if he comes over to help on the Darrion Williams drive, he's just going to drop the ball to Van Allen Lubin in the dunker spot for a layup. And then you've got Copeland in that weak side corner occupying the defense too. So to me, like this is when State's offense is at its best. I mean, it certainly helps to make shots. Not like they had some crazy shooting performance at Clemson. Like to me, it really was. They took good care of the ball. And man, when like they just leaned in on Williams, especially as like a mid-post creator, inverted ball screen creator, and obviously Paul as a screener. Those are really big pieces that you can use to unlock the offense.
Yeah, and the other thing I was going to point out here too is the fact that when you look back at this play too, it's the amount of options that you have off of this too. Where as Darrion's driving right here, like if they end up trying to figure out a way to switch both on him or double team him here, you leave Paul McNeil wide open. That's why you can't do that. As you mentioned, if they don't end up, if they do end up bringing both guys out, then you end up having an option to pass it out to the corner or get it underneath to Van Allen Lubin. This leads to basically the only play there is for Darrion Williams to drive, but he's got such an open look. It's like, why wouldn't you finish that?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, he's probably worried about getting a shot, blocked by a taller defender in Welling. And so he has a great counter, slam on the brakes. And he's a good free throw shooter. So, but I just thought State on both sides of the floor in this game played well. I thought their late game execution was good. And again, you can sort of like see the power of Paul as a screener, because I think in 4 of these 5 offensive clips that we went through, he was a screener in 4 of them. So, he helped get guys open, or use the confusion that his initial screen created to then help free himself for, a relocation 3 coming off of the flare screen from Lubin. So just good stuff from Paul. And one of those reminders that even when he doesn't have like a big time shooting performance, teams still have to guard him in a certain way. He has that rep now, right? As this sort of gravity heavy movement shooter, kind of the way Duke uses Isaiah Evans, sort of like a similar, he's out there to get shots for himself, but also to help open things up for other people too. And we touched on more than just Paul's offense too, right? I mean, his defense, he really showed up in moments on that side of the floor too against Clemson. So team win. I thought everyone really contributed, and certainly helped that Van Allen was really finished some of those looks strong around the rim too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think that again goes back to what we were talking about. The frustration of the Georgia Tech game is how many opportunities you did have at the rim. Mostly a little more contested than you had against Clemson, but at the same time, you have to finish those opportunities. You have to make the absolute most of it. We'll see if NC State is able to carry that over into a game against Pittsburgh on Saturday. That's the next game, and then obviously Tuesday you're going to have another difficult matchup against the Syracuse team that has had has had some better size here recently to be able to contend with Van Allen Lubin too. But we'll talk about all of that over the next few days. Brian, I appreciate you jumping on as always, man.
Yeah, take care, everyone in the Carolinas. Be safe this weekend too with the storm.
Yep, and as it said below your name the entire time, I do hope that you don't lose power as well, and then we can be talking.
Trying to watch basketball this weekend, man. I can't do it without power. I know that's lower on the list of concerns, but it is one that's certainly rattling around in my head. So
get the generator ready just in case you need it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, for BG, appreciate everybody for listening. We will talk to you guys again soon.